Yes, you've got that email reply from the recruiter shortlisting you for an interview. Now, with your foot in the door, it's time to start impressing the recruiter so that they will move you forward to the interviews with the hiring manager. So, what can you do to prepare and smash your first interview? Stick around to find out. Hi friends, my name is Jamie and I'm a Googler based in Singapore, and this channel is currently focused on helping students with practical career tips to help you secure that first internship or job. In this video, I'm going to share some tips on how you should approach the initial phone screen with the recruiter. As usual, timestamps can be found here, so feel free to skip ahead to the parts that are of value to you. The main aim of this call is to impress the recruiter so that they will be confident enough to move you forward to the main rounds of interviews with the hiring manager. At this point, your resume has already caught the recruiter's eye and they want to have a brief chat to find out more about you. It's a chance for them to properly gauge if you're a potential fit for the role or not, so remember to take the chance to impress them and convince them that you are worth moving forward for the interviews. This template is hosted on the platform Notion, an all-in-one workspace that you can download and use for free. If you haven't yet heard of Notion, I highly recommend you check it out and utilize it as a tool for organizing your life. So let's do a quick demonstration on how you can utilize the template. Alright, before we dive into the meaty parts of this template, let me give you a quick overview of what to expect during this interview. So a typical initial phone screen varies from about 15 to 30 minutes, and the flow of the call will likely follow this format. For the first 1 to 2 minutes, it will be small talk like, hey, how's it going? How's your day? How's the weather? How was your year? Things like that. And then following that, the recruiter will then kind of stop the small talk and say, can you please tell me a little bit more about yourself? And that's when you share what your experiences are like and throw in your elevator pitch basically. Only 2 to 3 minutes for this. Next, and this will be about 5 to 10 minutes, the recruiter will want to understand why you want to join the company, like why you're actually interested in the job. Again, if you don't have much idea of what the job is, or maybe the job description didn't clearly explain what the job is about, it's also the opportunity for them to give you more context about the role. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, the recruiter may also ask you, a little bit more on technical role-related knowledge questions. So this is probably like an initial test to see whether you actually know the basics, and they may or may not prompt you with an email beforehand to let you know, hey, actually I'm going to be asking you some questions, so just be ready for anything. Again, this will take about 5 to 10 minutes. And lastly, they will leave time for you to ask them questions, so questions you may have for the recruiters. It really depends. Sometimes people tend to overrun, so it can be any time from 5 to 7 minutes. And you can ask them maybe a max of 3 to 4 questions. Right. This probably may not be the same for every single company, but given the amount of time a recruiter has to screen someone, these are the essential details they will need to assess you with before making a decision on whether to move you forward or not. So now you know what to expect. Let's look a little bit more into what kind of preparation you would need to answer those questions. So let's look at the pre-interview preparation. So for the preparation portion, I'd highly advise you to take at least 1 hour to prepare for this part. It's heavily geared towards information gathering, and it can be tedious because you really have to dig through your past history to find out what you've done. So for current experiences and your elevator pitch, what is your current experience like? This would be a good time to have your resume handy and throw in your elevator pitch. And if you don't have an elevator pitch, don't worry, because I have an upcoming video where I share with you how to create an elevator pitch specifically for interviews like this. Anyway, you should take no longer than 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourself. Remember not to ramble. You don't want to take up 10 minutes, which is essentially 1/3 of the call just talking about yourself. Time is really precious in this 30 minutes. Remember to briefly highlight your wins and achievements, past curricular activities, any leadership positions you held, any competitions you won, basically anything that makes you stand out for this job. I'd say even if you have a cool side hustle, just mention a one-liner about it if you feel comfortable. Next, why are you interested in the company and the job? So make sure that you have done some research on the company. Like, what is their mission? Basically, you have to understand the company's why. What are they trying to solve? What is their company culture like? Do you resonate with it? Do you align with it? And if you do, how and why does it speak to you? Come up with your own examples so it sounds personal and the recruiter will be able to see that you actually bothered to do the research and prepare. So for the next part of the job, which part of the job are you actually interested in? Which part of the job description actually drew you in? Do you have the relevant skill sets to be able to do the job and excel at it? Next, we look at what your career aspirations and motivations are. So what are your motivations for wanting to apply for this job? Is it your first job? What skill sets do you truly want to get out of this job to help you grow both professionally and personally? And lastly, if the recruiter has actually sent you some materials to read through ahead of time, please take a look at them and please read all of them carefully. Click every single link they send, every PDF about the company and the role. Remember, recruiters are actually on your side and they want you to succeed too. Right, so I just put in some checkboxes here so you can actually edit them if you want. But yeah, just some examples like you reviewed the tech guide, or I did some practice questions that the recruiter asked me to practice on, and yeah, sometimes they even send you a culture document so you can understand a little bit more about the company. Here are some other tips you should know before you start the interview with the recruiter. If you're not interviewing in person, I have a 60-second video linked above, somewhere here, sharing some tips on how to interview virtually. Check it out, and of course, if you found it useful, it would help me a ton if you gave it a like. Second, remember to talk through a smile, especially if you are chatting over the phone. Just listen to me talking like this with a smile versus me now not really talking with a smile. I sound quite different, right? So same thing. Even if it's face-to-face, even especially if it's over the phone, just make sure you do it with a smile because it actually makes you sound very positive. And next, being enthusiastic. I heard this somewhere, but there's this guy called Kevin Kelly. He said being enthusiastic is worth 25 IQ points, and I found this to be very true. Don't sound grumpy or tired during the interview, no matter how you feel, because first impressions really count. After all, you wouldn't want to work with someone who doesn't sound friendly or excited about the job, right? So yeah, always be on your best, always be at your, not best behavior, but always be at your best when you're interviewing. Right. So during the interview, these are some of the things that recruiters will actually be looking out for. So number one, problem solving. Like, what is your thought process when you're given a problem to solve? Are you able to structure your thoughts and back up your recommendations with sound and logic reason? Next, role-related knowledge. Do you have the relevant knowledge to succeed and grow in the role that you're interviewing for? Do you have the relevant skill sets? For example, if you studied history, you most likely will not have the knowledge to excel in a software engineer role because you may not know how to code, right? I mean, this is just an example. I'm sure there are a lot of cool folks out there who have the knowledge even if they didn't study the corresponding degree. Right, and culture fit. Are you a fit for the company? Do you resonate with the company's values? So they will also be assessing your communication skills. Are you able to articulate your thoughts across to the recruiter well enough for them to understand you and the structure of your thoughts? Next, there will always be time to ask questions. So pick and choose a couple of questions, but again, this really is time dependent. But always make sure you cover the hiring process questions before you end the chat. Imagine if you don't ask these questions, you'll be lost on what is the next steps. How long will the whole hiring process take? How many interviews are there in the entire process? Best to get all these questions out of the way first so it won't leave you kind of wondering, oh, what's next? So I won't go through all the questions, but I've already listed a couple of questions below for your reference. So in an upcoming video, I'll also be sharing what kind of questions you should be asking your interviewers. So remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified once the video gets released. So I've also left an area here for you to take notes while you're having your chat. Remember to let your recruiter know that you are taking notes on the computer before you start the conversation. Let them know because they may actually hear you typing, and as you're taking notes on the computer, you don't want them to think, this person's not listening. They're actually busy Googling something somewhere else, right? So recruiters will really appreciate the courtesy shown to them. So just let them know. And I mean, if it's not okay to do it, then just tell them, okay, then I'll just take notes on my book instead. Something like that. Just, set expectations. Right, and then after the interview is complete, give yourself a pat on the back. Remember to send the recruiter a thank you note for their time. And also a note just to remind yourself to follow up with them. I'd say just give it about a week. Remember also to update your job application tracker. And if you're actually looking for one, I've already pre-made a free one on Notion, which you can find in this video or in the description linked below. So yes, this is the overview of this template and I hope you found it useful. Back to the video. Again, make sure you make a duplicate of this copy so that other students may benefit from it as well. So if you enjoyed content like this, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more tips like this. I'll see you in the next video.